Recording, broadcasting.
Okay. So people are on?
Yeah, people are logging on now. Hi,
Okay.
everybody.
Hello.
Welcome.
But we won't see anybody, right?
No,
No. Okay.
no, I just have, so it's funny, right? Because we've been doing this for a few weeks now, and I've been learning the system as well. So what I see right now is you and I logged on as panelists in this little box, and it tells me how many attendees there are.
Okay.
And if I click on attendees, I can see everybody's names, and there's a chat box, and I can see everyone saying hi. Like, we're up to 90 registrants logged on already.
Okay.
My wife's got to put on the popcorn machine apparently, so now
That's
I'm getting,
okay.
it's a gangster.
It's a show.
Welcome everybody to Virtual Education with Shark Fin Shears. I'm at home living the life, so my wife is making popcorn and my daughter's going to be running around. I'm going to be on mute as little as or as much as possible today. I'm super stoked about who we have in the classroom today. I've gotten to know Julie over the last couple of years virtually. I don't know that we've ever met and shook hands,
No?
right? So, but I'm a huge fan of your work, specifically Bob's. I love the energy. There are certain people's hair I look at it when it comes to cutting and coloring, and I just feel it. I just feel it in my body. It's art, and you're one of those people. So,
Thank
guys,
you.
welcome aboard. You can ask questions. I'm going to go silent. Julie, thank you so much for coming on. If it wasn't for artists like you, we wouldn't be able to do this. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, and knock it out of the park.
Okay. Hello, guys. So, to start, I'm gonna have, I kind of just wanted to show off like a fun color technique. I tried something new on this mannequin. I typically go blonde on mannequins. I feel like those are like the bobs of mine that kind of get noticed. But bleaching a mannequin to a platinum blonde just didn't seem the funnest to me. So I want to try something different. So I took her dark. So these are some pictures of before to show some placement coloring of like what I like to do. I have one bob that does pretty well. She always has like a heavy underneath. Usually she's solid blonde on top and then a solid vivid on the bottom. So that's what these are showing you. I'm kind of showing you how I do my partings. Like I just do a heavy zigzag parting underneath, make sure that her front is parted out, the top is parted out, like all of what you're wanted. I bleached her out. So typically on a client, normally you would apply mid, shaft, and down through the ends first, and then you'd go back in and apply the roots just because of a hot root situation. So that's kind of what that picture is showing. I will post some more posts and videos and stuff of what I did for her after. And then I only colored half of my mannequin, like with the vivid underneath. So this is kind of a fun one. This is like a pop of color to show. So I'll have him put up the screen of the color placement. It's so fun with vivids. You can just place that however you want. I personally kind of almost did like a triangle sectioning. So wide on this one, pointy on this one, wide on this one, pointy on this one. That's a fun thing with this kind of stuff. You can kind of just play with it. So also one thing too, when you're playing with like fun color placement is to be aware of their partings. So I'll be honest with you, like if she was parted down the middle, I'm gonna take her off so that I can make sure you guys can see this. So she was parted down the middle. Her coloring is even. Like you can now see what she was before. I made a boo-boo and I kind of colored her off of her side and I didn't go up high enough on here. So anytime you're doing fun color placement, definitely be aware of their parts. If she parts it down the middle, then I would keep it as it is and then just tell her that when she parts it on whichever heavier side, she's gonna see a little less color, a little more color, whatever. I mean, that's kind of fun, but as you guys can see, sorry, she's dark and I didn't think about that for the live, but it's kind of fun. Like when we curl her, you'll see like little fun pops of color. And you can play with them. I like wanted to try green so bad because how often do you actually get to do green on a mannequin or on a person? But so that's kind of fun. I'll show you kind of obviously again what she looked like prior. So just kind of a fun application. This is super fun with bobs because you actually do see the color pop out underneath versus like a long hair. You're gonna see that little pop of color, and we will shatter out this top layer even a little bit more. So you would see that little pop of color. So it's a fun color placement if your bobs are ever looking for something different. It's just something fun. It's pretty easy. Take whatever partings you want depending on their hairline, all of that, where they want the color to see. And if you are doing somebody who is like an all over scalp bleach or something, it's nice because you can always go back and add color in with a Vivid. So don't, you know, you can just play with it. So I just wanted to show you something fun with that. So I pre-cut half of my mannequin just so that we can see. I probably should have worn something white so when she's against me, you can see. But we're gonna just take her, she's kind of on a lob. We're gonna take her to a stacked bob haircut. So yes, I pre-cut this side so I can kind of show you like some of the dry cutting techniques and that kind of stuff. And then I will go over with the wet side with you right now. So typically, actually not typically, always, I do probably, I'd say 3/4 to half of my hair cut dry. I prefer dry cutting just because I like to see what their hair is going to do. Something that's wet doesn't look how it does when it's dry. And we walk around with our hair dry, not wet. So I prefer to cut my haircuts dry, especially with something like this. People have funky calyx, any of that kind of stuff. So I just like to see how the hair is going to lay. So we're gonna start. Okay, so, and everybody has a method, okay, of how you cut. So you can take my method and adjust it to you. There is not a right way to cut hair. There is a wrong way to cut hair, but there's not one right way. Like, I have seen multiple people do bods and they cut it completely different than me and they get the same result. So take what I'm giving you and kind of apply it to you. See how you feel about it. If you have any questions, hit me up. I'm always happy to answer. So typically what I do with my bobs, and you'll have to comment and let Willie know if for some reason you can't see. And again, I apologize that her color isn't showing up as good as I would have liked to. I didn't think about her being dark. I figured on this white wall it would be awesome. But so number one thing that I would do with a client, first thing to do when you're cutting a bob is have them drop their head, okay? You're gonna drop their neck. What that's gonna do is naturally give you a tuck. It's going to make all these little neck hairs push out so that you can get that really nice, tight, stacked barrier back here, okay? That's probably my number one thing that I get asked. How do I get that really, really tight area? You gotta have them drop their head, okay? So we are going to take our shears. And so when I cut my perimeter, I'm gonna kind of show you on this previous piece, now that she's dried, I haven't touched her up since I dried her. You can see this little piece out here, okay? So I do all of my neckline detailing once they're dry. So when I'm cutting their perimeter, I always definitely know that I'm going to be taking off a little bit extra. So if they're not wanting to go above a certain point, I say give yourself a 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch extra leeway so that you can go in and put it really nice and high and tight. If they're a little freaked out about going too short back there, then just keep that kind of in mind, okay? So first thing too, we're going to part off our front and our back. So on a mannequin, it's a little different, but on a person, typically we're taught in school to part middle of the ear. I on bobs, because remember, here's a visual. Here is your bottom perimeter that has hair. Where's your like perimeter? Up here. So you're missing that whole section of hair, okay? That's usually how you end up with a hole behind your ear. So I like to be safe, I like to take my parting for my bobs back behind the ear, okay? So that this piece, like when we drop it, you can see where it lays right here. But if we make sure that we're not stacking this piece, we won't cut a hole, okay? Maybe even sometimes depending on their hairline, all that kind of stuff, I will go a little further back. That is just my security blanket. I think we can always go back in and blend it in and layer it out after. But if you cut that hole, you can't fix it. But we can always fix it if the hair is still there. So we're gonna go in and we are gonna section that out, okay? Okay. Okay, so this is when you, after you part that out, you're going to have your client drop their head, okay? And necklines is a personal preference. I like to eye it depending if they want super heavy, super A-line, if they want more like kind of a blunt length in the back to an A-line. You guys, there's so many ways to do a bob and they are customizable. So you need to make sure that you're talking to your client and saying, do you want your neckline to be in the shape of an A? Do you want it to be straight and then drop down to an A-line? Like A-line, stacked bobs, those kind of all flow under the same terminology, but they all have so many cool custom abilities. That's why this haircut will never, ever, ever, ever go away, okay? Ever. Because you can customize it to every client. Like sometimes I do the heavy, deep A-line and more the trend right now that I'm doing, people want it more straight across in the back and then drop right here, okay? So again, it's personal preference. So we are going to, I start in my middle, kind of find my middle guide of like our length-ish that we're going to, okay? And then we're gonna cut our angle in. And it's kind of harder from your one side, so I'm giving you guys my hard side for me. Kind of gotta eye it. If you have to, put it against, I like to let the hair kind of go where it's going to lay. Okay, I don't like to force it, but like in a situation like this, since it's a mannequin and it's kind of hard, we're gonna, sorry if all my email notifications go off. I don't know how to turn that off, guys. Okay. And yes, guys, I'm not gonna lie. She doesn't have a ton of hair. I've kind of pre-cut her for another haircut and texturized her a lot. So if this was a client with really thick hair, then yes, I would do at least 2 or 3 sections to get her perimeter so you're not chopping through like a thick bunch of hair, okay? So typically you would do, say, section 1, part it out, cut down section 2, section 3, okay? But look at this, I just want to show you. I mean, she's a mannequin, but just by dropping her head, can you see how that already took that under? So like when my clients come in for their touch-up, they drop their head, I cut their perimeter all the way around, back and front, and then I dry them. Depending on where they are, if they want their bob like super stacked back up, like they're like, it's way too long, I want like a full inch off of everything, okay, then I'll go back through. But if they're liking where it is and they're like, oh, I just like it, I just want it shaped up, I will literally go in, have them drop their head, do that, cut their perimeter, and then I will dry them and I will do everything else dry and shadow them out. Because just that has already stacked them. So if they don't want to go much shorter, you don't want to go through and do everything again. You're going to take off a lot of length, okay? So keep that in mind. Okay, so, and again, this is what I mean. Everybody has a way of cutting. I always start on my sides versus starting in my middle. You can do my technique starting in the middle, starting on the sides. There's no preference. I used to do nails, so I, for some reason, always started pinky to pinky. So I think I start side to side with hair. I'm pretty sure I was taught to cut down the middle, start in the middle. It just has never registered with me. So that's just how I keep my guide for myself. So again, you can start through the middle. Mine is a traveling guide. So your guide is going with you. It's not a stationary guide that you're pulling hair to. Okay. So I always have a traveling guide on my box. So this is going to be kind of weird because I normally start on that side. So bear with me as I, actually, I'm going to start down the middle because I'm continuing my haircut. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come up and we are going to establish a guide at the top. Typically with my bobs, I don't cut short layers, guys. Like I don't say, oh, you want your top layer to sit right here at your parietal ridge. Okay, we're going to come up here, and I'm going to cut that off because you know what that's going to do is that's going to create a ridge that now you cannot blend out. Okay, so if all else fails, I'd always rather leave the top layers. Like when I pull this top layer down, it goes all the way to her bottom perimeter. Okay, like when I stretch it. When I release it, yeah, it's sitting up here, and then we can shatter this out to give that heavy high bump. But I know a lot of people, I've had a lot of questions when people are like, oh, I cut a bob and she had this weight line right here and I couldn't get rid of it. That's because you went too short with your top layer. So for me, it's just easier not to and to go in and shatter that out. It maybe is taking more time, but for me, it's my safety net, okay? So we are going to take a piece of our previous guide. We're going to cut into it. So we're going to come up. We're going to see, okay, we do want our layer to drop right about our neckline. So we're going to take just a little bit off. She doesn't need much. Okay.
Can you turn her sideways,
Yep.
please?
Is that better?
It is better, but also I want to be mindful of your cutting comfortability too. So whatever's best from you, but I think this would look,
Yeah, if everyone can see. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful.
Okay. I prefer point cutting only because I like a lot of texture and it's just helping eliminate something that you have to do later. So it's personal preference. Okay, I gotta turn it just a little bit right there. Okay, so when I reach about her parietal ridge, so all of these partings are, you guys, I'm horrible with angles. So, I mean, that's what, a 45 off of her head, okay? So when I reach her parietal ridge is when I drop my hands and my angle of my fingers, okay? Your angle of your fingers is your number one tell of a bob of your angle. Can you see my hand and my fingers, what the angle of her bob is going to be? Can you watch as I drop my hand, how her haircut shifts? So this would be more of like a lob as you come up. And then can you see how if my fingers were too high, do you see where that top little layer would sit? She'd have a straight up haircut and then this like wad of hair. So you need to be very aware of your fingers and your placement and how you're going in and angling your hand. And you have to pay attention that it stays the same throughout the haircut, okay? You can have a guide, but if your fingers aren't also part of your guide, you're going to lose your guide and it doesn't matter. Because we can move our fingers and match our guide, right? Like you can adjust your fingers and be like, oh, there's my guide. Oh, there's my guide. Oh, there's my guide. You can adjust it. But if you're not paying attention to the angle of your fingers and the angle of your hand, you're going to miss the angle and then you're going to end up having to go in and cut something that wasn't meant to cut, okay? So as I reach her, sorry, I'm gonna move this out of the way so that I can see what I'm doing. So when I reach her, like her parietal ridge, I drop my hand. So I'm gonna kind of, let me see if I can come on this side if that's a little easier. Okay, yeah. I drop my angling so that I can see where my angle is gonna be. Can you see how I travel that? And that travels out. Do you see all that volume that she's gonna gain? Okay. Keep going. And what you're doing is you're angling in to meet, yes, that piece at the very bottom, which we're still going to trim out a little bit later. Okay, so you're going to take another section. This is so interesting because I'm like, okay. It's always funny when you're trying to show people, you realize how you cut and you're like, oh, okay, wait, that's not gonna work. So I'm taking a piece of my other guide, bringing it with me. Her hair is directly straight out from her head too. If you over direct her hair this way or under direct her hair this way, you're gonna end up with long pieces, short pieces. So you have to make sure that your tension is directly out from her head, okay? You can relax your tension once you've gotten the fingers and everything, because we don't want our arms and our elbows up like that. That's gonna give us all massive shoulder issues later in life. We do not need that. Okay, sorry guys. Come across, drop my finger placement. Seeing she's already longer on this side than my other side. And everybody has a long side, guys. It's okay. I do too. Everybody does. The way you hold your tension, all of that. So you just got to be aware. Okay, I'm going to try to do it this way because I'm going around. Are there any questions so far?
We had a question or a couple questions earlier about how you prefer to texturize and whether you use a texture shear, but I think you're showing us with the point cutting the answer to that.
Well, and I will go through because I do all of my texturizing, all of that when she's dried. The only time I will texturize when they're wet is if they have a crazy, crazy amount of hair, and I know I'm going to go through and texturize the crap out of it once it's dry, and I'm just trying to eliminate time for myself. So if their hair is crazy freaking thick and I know I'm going to go in and do heavy texturizing once they're dry, then I will texturize them when they're wet. Otherwise, I don't touch them with a texture shear until they're fully dry, personally. Again, because I like to see how their hair is going to lay. And just because sometimes somebody has thinner hair doesn't mean that you're not going to texturize them, like especially with a bob, because with a bob, what we're doing is we're building weight in the back, and if their front is thin, then you want to thin out their back so that they match up. If their front is thick and their back is super thin, you want to thin out the front so that it looks symmetrical, okay? You don't want it to look like they're bulky somewhere and it's not evenly textured, if that makes sense. Okay, so see this portion right here, the reason that I don't take this hair into this is because we're going to make this come directly out from her head. I want to show you guys that. Do you see how her hair is coming directly out from her head? She's not this. She's not this. This. Directly out. This is how we know, so that when her hair lays flat, it lays right there and we're not going to create a hole. Hence, too, why we don't do this, because typically you either under direct or over direct, and then you end up adjusting this hair where you don't want it, and you end up cutting a hole. And guess what? You'll realize a hole when you've made one. I've made a hole, so don't worry, guys. Everyone will make a boo-boo, and everyone will make a hole, and you'll, start sweating, and it's fine. It happens. But that's why mannequins are so good. Practice, 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 practice. Like, you guys, coloring this mannequin was a struggle. It made me be like, oh, wow, a human head is so much easier. So if you can get stuff down on a mannequin, then you can get stuff down on people, okay? And I know that, like we've got cowlicks and all that kind of funny stuff, so I'll address that with you too in just a second. So, okay, So there you go. You can kind of already see her stack. Yes, like right now, people, when it's wet, you want to see her stack up here. No, 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 no. Don't worry about it. Once it's dry, once it's styled, that's when it poofs up. And we are going to shatter out this top layer so that she has that extra poof on top. Because otherwise, too, what made me start doing this, keeping my layers longer, is guys, clients don't always style their hair the way that we do. So we can get that top poofy layer super smooth, but when they go out and they don't round brush it, flat iron it the way that we do, they literally end up with a chunk of hair that sits right here. And if they don't smooth it out properly, then it doesn't look like a stack. It looks like you missed something. And do you see how that takes away actually from her stack? Like how that layer sits there versus this finishes it, and then we pull this up and it poofs it out. Okay, so all in your finish work.
Julie, what size shears do you cut with? 6 1/4?
I think these are 6.
Yeah, 6 1/4.
Yes.
Yeah, 625.
And these are the Monarchs. Love these. Okay, so for my sides, it's pretty simple. I don't do a ton with my sides when it's wet, again, because most people don't have a full hairline like this sweet little mannequin. They have ears that stick out, so it just presents a lot of struggles on a human head. But I mean, I really don't do a ton of work when my sides are wet. So I'll show you what I do. Again, it's going to kind of depend on each side because you know what I mean, like the way your angle is, your hands, all of the above. So kind of play with it, but I'm going to show you typically what I would do is I would kind of eye it. I'd take an inch at a time and I'd pull it back to my shortest guide back here, her little corner piece. And I cut, and you have to make sure, again, it's all in your fingers. If I keep my fingers here, I'm not going to create an angle. Even if do you know what I mean? You have to use your fingers as part of your guide, okay? Remember that, remember that, remember that. And then if you turn out your fingers, you're going to create a lip. If you turn your fingers under, you're going to create, like your fingers need to stay straight, all of the above, okay? So that's one way that I do it. I'll just, depending on what they want, I'll just bring it back. If somebody wants a heavy, heavy A-line, like really long, the further back you extend it, the more length you're going to gain in the front. It's all a matter, like you can pull all of this back, all the way back here, and like you're barely going to cut that much off. So she'll be super A-lines, okay? So it's all in the direction of the hair, how much, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. What is the word? Wow. How much you over direct the hair, okay? So on my other side, what I did was I just did my little inch guy at a time. So I'm gonna clip this back so you guys can see a little bit better. So I just take a little teeny baby section of my last piece to cut. You can see it right there. And I take about an inch at a time, work it back, cut. And it's like as I go, I drop some of my old guide and pick up some of my new guide.
Julie, if the shoulder's in the way, how do you navigate that?
So on a person, I would have them look down and over. And you can like put your hand on their shoulder like this, so it forces their shoulder down. But two, if all else fails and you can't get it, again, that's why I wait until they're dry. You might just have to freehand it. Shoulders are kind of a pain in the bum that way. And we didn't heavy crazy A-line her front, so. So then, two, that is when you would look, like you can see like there's her angle, but like right here, probably because of like her hairline or her ear, that's where it would bump out. So then I would just go in and freehand it. I usually cut, I haven't done this until recently. I cut on a stool, and it makes the world of difference. So amazing because your eye level, like typically, I'll show you guys the back of my head. I'll kind of scoot her up a little bit. Like you want to be right here. Like I'm cutting this, you want your eyes to be right here, not up here, okay? So typically I would cut, so like right now my body's in like a really weird position, but your body positioning and like the health of your shoulders, your legs, your back, it's a lot more important when you get the older you get. So you do want to take her around the front, make sure, like I obviously took her a little shorter on the other side. That's the problem when you do cut half the haircut one way and half the haircut the other. I obviously over-directed her a little bit more, I believe. So I did over-direct her on the other side, so what we're doing is we're heavy extending her back. I always think it's a good idea to pre-cut half of it and then I forget what I did. Okay, see, this is a perfect example. If something is happening and it's not matching up and you keep cutting, stop cutting, dry the hair, and adjust from there. Because sometimes you keep cutting and you cut too much. Okay, so let's see, how can I show this? So how I blend in my sides, I take a diagonal back parting. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see that? Diagonal back parting. She's not tipped down, she's not anything, and what I'm doing is I'm elevating the hair up, taking a small piece of my top guide from the back, and I'm over directing it, finding my guide underneath. So my guide's about right there. We're not gonna take off very much, okay? I don't like to do a ton of layering through the front. That's typically where most people don't have as much hair. So you want to keep the front area as thick as possible. Again, it's dependent on the type of hair that they have, but I keep all of my hair that I've cut in my hand and I'm just pushing everything back. So this is a stationary guide. Back to that, and by the time you get to the front, you're not gonna be cutting very much, if anything. So usually this front section, you're not cutting anything. And that is literally all I do for my front layering. Like I don't go much into it until it's dry. Okay, do we have any wet hair cutting questions? Because I'm gonna go on to her dry side. Are there any wet ones?
Not yet. We're getting good feedback, but nothing yet. No.
Okay, so we're gonna switch over to this side. Now she's dry, okay? So this, guys, I didn't round brush this, paddle brush this, I did nothing. I literally took my blow dryer on her head, you know, trying to blow dry a mannequin by yourself is super fun, and dried it. Like, this is no styling. So, granted, people will naturally have little cowlicks and that kind of stuff, but this haircut, when done properly, shouldn't require a lot of styling for your client. That is partially the point of why people want this haircut. Makes them not feel frumpy and dumpy. It's always a style that's always in place. Like if she had to just leave like that, great, right? I think that's super cute, but obviously we're gonna go in and detail her out a little bit more, but okay. So now what we're gonna do is now we're gonna go in and detail our stack. I love her two-toned hair. Okay. So, again, what I would have them do is I would have them drop their head, okay? this is where, and we can even see this over here. I'll let you guys see it. Okay, I'm gonna try to get her really close. Okay, can you guys see right here? Can you see that layering of hair that's sitting and how this hair right here is distracting from that really nice clean perimeter? That is what you're going to cut off. Can you see it? Even when her hair's still wet, you can see it. Obviously, you can tell that that side of her hair is flipping out. But you can completely see where her perimeter is. And it doesn't look bad if they're wanting more of like a soft, fluffy bob. It actually, like from the side, see, you don't notice it. It blends in because we cut from guide to guide, okay? But if they want that really heavy stacked back, this is the portion that we're going to cut off, okay? Because that's typically people's, like where it gathers right there. When they put their head down, you see it. When they put their head up, they don't. But that, for me, I have found like is what sets me apart with my bobs versus other bobs. So it makes it really nice and tight and stacked. So again, if they were super curly, if they had a weird funky cowlick, yes, I would go in, I would flat iron this, blow dry this, make sure that this is laying really flat and really smooth, okay? Because that's what you're gonna do. And then you are gonna have them again, drop their head, because we want to make sure that we can see what their hair is going to do, okay? So, and this, we are not elevating the hair, we're not doing anything, we are letting the hair lay where it's gonna lay. And on a mannequin, yes, I get it, it's a little harder, but it's the best way to learn. And guys, I'm OCD about my hairlines. So I bet I cut my hairline 2 or 3 times because I'm OCD about it, but okay. Can you see the difference? But from the side, stacked. From the side, it's stacked, okay? They both look great, but it's when you go around to the back, do you see how this just creates a little bit more wispy and texture? This creates it really nice and tight. So you need to have that conversation with your client that they want that really nice, tight thing. That is one conversation that I have to have with my clients when they bring me in a picture and I know the work and I tell them, I'm gonna try to get her really close to you again, sorry. Is this hair is maybe an inch long, if that. Like this underneath hair is short. If they want to be able to put their hair in a ponytail, any of that, this is not what they want to do, okay? You want to go a little bit longer, but this is like my thing that I love. So just for fun's sakes, we're gonna come over here and we are gonna clean up this side of her. I love a good neck clean, a good clean neckline. Okay, but like, how great. Oh, I love it. Okay, so typically too, on a person, I'm gonna try to show you on a mannequin because it's kind of hard on a mannequin just because their hair doesn't typically go with it. So what I would do, I'm gonna bring her as close to you guys as possible. Do you love all of her color? Stains all over her too. Okay, what I would do, because usually this area right here is where everyone has a cowlick. This is where their ducktail is. Usually one side flips out and then one side curls under, okay? So you're already working against you. And I would do this on anybody, whether they want it tight or not. And I come in with a razor and I put it flat against their scalp. Can you see? And I would take that completely out. You only want to go, like I'm maybe a 1/4 of an inch in. You don't go super far in. She wants to tip over. But what that does is it just alleviates all that hair that wants to stick up And again, she's a mannequin, so now you're gonna see it. But on a normal life person, you wouldn't see that she's bald right there. But what it would do is it cleans all of that up, allows the hair to lay nice and smooth, okay? Then, while all of this is still, because this is the area that we're heavy working on, this is her stack, okay? So I did like a V parting so that I can follow my cut line. And this is about her parietal ridge, okay? So I take her sideways to show you. And what I do is this is so that I can check all angles and make sure that I get everything, because once their hair is this short back here, it's kind of hard to pick it up and see where you messed up or have any little hairs. So I do a horizontal parting, and what I'm doing is I'm taking my comb and I'm elevating it out like this. Because what am I doing? I'm still following my finger guide, okay? I'm not going up, I'm going out. So this is the same angle that my fingers were holding. I am just now using my comb so that I can go in there and get more details, okay? So, let's see, actually that was better, right? Is that a good view? Okay, so what I do is I come through, how can you guys see this? I want to show you, okay. What you're gonna do is you're gonna see like any little area, and sometimes it's not very much, sometimes it's a lot, it just depends. And you're just gonna keep making sure that you're following with your angle, and it's almost like I constantly keep moving, okay? So you go, 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 go. And while you're doing that, you're just lightly trimming. It is like not going deep, I'm not doing anything like that, okay? It's just to go in and detail that out and make sure that it's nice and even. If you want, I took a cutting class and she always goes back in the way she cut. That's totally fine. You can go back in, take your partings, just make sure you adjust. But I like to do mine horizontally, okay? So cute. Okay. Show you some texturizing, because see, I work heavy into this section. Okay, so I have got my 40 teeth texturizer shear. Love this. You can even part out some more hair at this point if you want to. Again, if they're super thick right here, this is where you're gonna be doing a lot of detail, guys, because this is what makes the stack. It's not your top layer, it's the actual stack underneath, okay? So you can come in with your texture shear. I like to point cut with these. So you can come in at an angle. Remember, you never want to do a horizontal. You always want to do at an angle so that the line is softened, okay? So I will come in at an angle and just point cut in there, like down here where she's super thick. Towards her ends. If she's super thick, you can go up in a little bit higher. Drop that down. Do the same. And we're just focusing on her ends so they get nice and light and wispy. And again, if they're super thick, you can go up into their root area, but you don't want to do the root area on anything higher than their parietal ridge. So, okay. So like you can even just see when you poof it out, see how it gets a little bit bigger? Because half the time too, and you need to have that conversation with your client, I want it that big. And I'm like, well, that's partially the style. Like you have to style it that way. In all of my pictures, partially what's making it look big is the style. Like if the style's not there, it's not going to matter, okay? Because you can't make hair lay, you know, that way without making it styled. So yeah, just heavy go in and detail that. So now we're gonna do one more parting Go up above her parietal ridge. We're gonna leave out just that very top layer because that's what we're gonna texturize. This is when now I incorporate this section into my bottom, okay? So we're gonna continue out. Just trim it up. I mean, it's just little babies. She's a little naughty. Okay. And then once we get to this area, this is when I do something called shear shattering. You go into the heavy point cutting. So now we're above her parietal ridge. This is where we want all of this layering to wear and to lay very, very softly, okay? You have to get me on time, by the way, because my computer does not have a clock on it, and I'm not in a room with clocks. So
20-ish minutes. 20-ish minutes. If you're done sooner, that's fine. 20 minutes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay.
All right.
So this is where you are going to take vertical partings, okay? We're going to kind of go back. You can start in the center, start on the side, whatever you want to do. So you can do a heavy point cut. I'm going to try to, how can I show you guys? Good. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so do you see that we're not pulling any of this bottom area that we already cut, but we are keeping a guide of it in our fingers, okay? So can you see? There's our short where it starts to go shorter. We don't want to get into that because we already did it, but I do like to have it in my hand so I can use it as a guide, a reference. Can you see how light and textured this section is and how much bulkier this is? We want to kind of blend them together, okay? So you can shear shatter, you can go in, point cut, kind of relax some of that out a little bit. And remember, you want to do a heavy point cut. You don't want to be taking length, okay? So you're pulling out as you're cutting, okay? That's the technique. Don't cut as you're going in, okay? That's when you're going to take chunks. So you go in open, and as you're pulling out, you close your shear, okay? There's that technique that I'll go and I'll do through this and see how that just lightens that out. Or I'll do what we call shear shattering. So what it is it's this very tip part of your shear, and you're almost just barely, like, can you see my thumb? You're just doing like a quick little movement, okay? And it's pulling in and out, in and out, in and out, okay? And you're just taking little sections. So you're not, let's say you're not opening your shears much more than that. Like, can you guys say that? Like, that's about, you're not going wide, like just the very tip, because what we're doing is taking out very, very, very little pieces.
Someone noticed something that I didn't. You changed combs. Did you do that purposely?
Oh, no.
Okay, cool.
I
So
just
there's no reason.
have two combs sitting here because I know I would drop one.
Okay, cool.
They're the same size. Okay, so see, this is when you're going to go in. And you can't even see what I took out. Trying to, let's see here. Okay. I'm trying to make it so you guys can see. You can see the hair falling, but it just lightens it out. See how much fluffier that little section is than like even right here? Okay, I'll do one more section like that. Let's see here, you guys can see. And you want to be like, you don't want to be right on their ends. I'm probably what, 1.5 inches in, okay? So that you're feathering out those ends. But now can you see how much lighter that is? And you can see all the texture. So what that does is it gives you movement and layering. It helps give them body. And you can do this all the way around. This I feel like kind of gives a little bit more of like a wispy effect versus I think point cutting gives a little bit more of a notchy effect depending on how much you do both. So it's personal preference. I literally use both, but it just kind of like lightens out that layer. So now, especially like when you move, you can see all of that movement, okay? So I would do that left to right, all the way over, okay? Now we're gonna drop down this top layer, and then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do point cuts. Again, we're gonna take the new section, take a little piece of our old, like the section that we just cut right there, okay? This is what we're gonna blend out. We're just gonna make it nice and light and wispy so that it feathers in. So again, you can do the point cutting, or the shear shattering, sorry. Or you can do the heavy point cutting. Okay, you can also do that texture shear. If they have a lot of hair, I actually love to do point cutting with my texture shear. I'll even do like a form of a shear shatter. So I'll take just like the very tip of my shear and pick a section that's maybe about 1/4 of an inch and go out. If they have crazy thick hair and you got to get rid of some weight and some thickness, okay, I'll do that. And then what I'll do is I'll drag my fingers out on this top layer, go out to those ends again. So you're almost like shattering this top layer twice, and that's what's gonna give you that very like top bump, okay? I'll show you on one more piece. See how far in I am? About 2-3 inches on the top layer. We're gonna do point cuts. And again, remember, I'm going at an angle. I'm not going horizontally, okay? Then I take my fingers, drag it out, and do those ends again. And that just creates like a nice, see how like wispy her top is now?
Could you do that same technique, but try to put the hair out a little further? Do it from there if you would. I think it'll be a better angle.
Yeah.
We want the white background behind it. So
Okay.
maybe spin her actually then. If you're going to cut there, spin her head to face the, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna kind of move into her front layering, which is totally fine. Same technique. This is how I blend all my layers through. So we're in pretty far. And I'm not going horizontally, okay? You're gonna tip your shear at a little bit of an angle. And I don't cut all the way across, okay? As I'm going at an angle, I'm going at an angle, going at an angle, going at an angle, so that she gets different layers of texture through there, okay? So point cut, pull it out, point cut, pull it out. Okay, and then I'm gonna shift my fingers up and do it in a different section. And all that's gonna do is like wisp out your layer a little bit. But do you see how now it looks like she has like tons of layering back here, but we didn't? So when she wears her hair straight and smooth, like look how soft and blended that still is. When she doesn't poof her hair or style her hair, she doesn't end up with this weighted line right here. But when she actually puts forth the effort, round brushes it and like poofs it, she gets a much more like A-line. Does that make sense to people? So now too, as we're going through our fronts, what I'm doing is I follow my same guideline as I did wet. I'm gonna push them back at a diagonal back. Push them in, and like you can kind of see, like we want to feather through this a little bit, this top section, okay? So we're gonna blend through a little bit. Again, most people don't have as much like good hair in their hairline as this mannequin. Like usually this whole section is missing, so that's why I like to feather through here more, so that this looks light and wispy, and then this looks really nice and full, okay? One other thing, so once I get to my sides and I've gone through and I've done my texturizing, we're gonna pretend that you guys are my mirror. I would pull her into the mirror. I would stand behind her. See, I should have worn a white shirt. And what I would do is I would make sure that this is beveling under properly. She's actually really good because she doesn't have an ear sticking out. But most people, let's say her ear's right here. Okay, I'm looking at her, and let's say this section, if I can like kind of maybe mock it, would like stick out right there because her ear would be sticking out. So it wouldn't like bevel under right here. Literally, you have to eye it because remember, this is what they're going to see. I would literally put them in the mirror, stand behind them like this. I would find the piece and I would pick it up with my fingers, pull it out, and I would texturize it where it lays. Like I don't want to elevate it up here. I want to keep it where it's gonna lay. So I would, with my shears, my texture shear, whatever your preference, come in, again, point cut at an angle, just and drop it so that it like nice and tucks under. Okay, and again, if anybody's ever like, oh, I want like a heavier layer that's sitting right through there, take little sections at a time. It's maybe, I don't know, about an inch worth. Okay, at a diagonal, not a straight line, and you can go in, pull it up, and heavy texturize that. Like we don't necessarily want her length to be shorter, we just want to wisp all this out so that when it lays down, she sees that layer that sits right through there, okay?
Looks great.
So there's her perimeter. This is, what's her other side? Let me pin it back so that's not distracting. And guys, while in quarantine, I have had a girl working on my website. It's just like a little website to go and purchase classes. So I am going to be offering like group classes and one-on-ones. So be checking my Instagram for that. I'm happy to travel to other places. Okay, so this is too where I would come in from this angle, like I would be where my shears are, okay? And I would check her perimeter, like right through here, I feel like she looks a little wispy, back here it's good, and she's a little bulky right there. So that is when I would come in. You're gonna detail this out. Like you have to keep checking their perimeter as it goes, okay? Yeah, that's a little better. And if they want like a fringe or like little pieces through their bang, I never pull any of the front hairline back. In most cases, it's not going to reach back that far, but I just like to keep it as long and as full through there. This is where I would take just like a diagonal, like a triangle section at the front. This is when I would choose shear shattering. Okay. Let's see here. There we go. I can hold it up there. And we're gonna shear shatter through. And what this is gonna do, same thing, move through. And all it's gonna do is kind of like lighten this front area up a little bit so that when she pulls her hair back, it's like a little lighter and wispier right there. But yeah, I feel like that's a gist too. And I will stand at this direction again, okay? And I will take little vertical sections down where it lays, make sure that little corner that they see when they look blends through well. Okay, and if all else fails, guys, when you're cutting a bob, like I said earlier, and it's not looking right, you followed all the steps, it's looking bulky, it's looking chunky somewhere, stop, cutting, dry it, and finish cutting it dry. Because it looks complete, like look at this side, she's still kind of wet versus this side. Like you see a huge difference. You don't see any layers when she's wet, but once it's dry and poofed, you see all of that layering, okay? So stop cutting and dry it. That is my number one thing. People keep cutting when it's wet, and people don't wear their hair wet. We want to see what their hair looks dry. So, all right. What do you guys think?
Looks great.
She's so cute. Every time I cut a mannequin, I'm like, oh, I want short bob hair.
Looks like you have a lot of hair up there.
I do.
Yes.
I can't do hair with my hair down. Like I was like, oh, I should like do my hair down today. I haven't done it in forever, but I was like, I can't. It has to be like up off my body. Are there any questions that I didn't address?
Lots of great feedback. What's your Instagram? Because I don't think you mentioned that.
Head Rush Designs.
Yes. Head Rush Designs.
Yes, and I have a couple, we will save this and I will post this to my feed. I have a couple other quick little bob cutting tutorials on there. And again, I'm hoping by the end of the week, my thing will be live and I'll have options for classes in that. There's also contact information on there. You can email me, you can DM me off of Instagram for a one-on-one. You can do a class setting, whatever you want, like any kind of education, and I am willing to travel.
Perfect.
So yeah, it's super fun, and actually I love doing one-on-ones. That's kind of what I've gotten into more. I prefer them. I think they're super cool because you can actually critique somebody a little bit longer and better. So that's something to look into. They're obviously a little more expensive, but you get me one-on-one by yourself, and you can customize your class completely. So
fantastic.
Whatever over.
Well,
So
just so you know.